Hello, hockey fans, and welcome back to another episode of Whatever Happened To? The series where we take a where are they now look at players who found success in the National Hockey League but are no longer permanent fixtures in the league, either due to controversy, poor play, or just rotten luck. In today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at a 7-year veteran of the league, as we ask, whatever happened to Alexei Emelin? The 84th overall pick in the 2004 NHL entry draft by the Montreal Canadiens, Alexei Emelin spent the next 7 seasons in his native Russia, plying his trade in both the Russian Super League, back when it was still around, and the newly formed KHL, where he split his time between Lada Togliatti, his hometown team, and Akbars Kazan, and scored 60 points in 304 regular season games, as well as 16 points in 59 playoff games. Despite these unimpressive point totals, the defensive defenseman had also earned himself a couple of trophies, as he won the KHL's playoff championship, the Gagarin Cup, with Kazan, both in 2009 and 2010. The Russian defenseman's breakout 26-point year during the 10-11 season prompted the Canadiens to bring Emelin across the pond in order to see if he could cut it at the NHL level, as the Habs signed the 25-year-old to a 1-year entry-level contract on May 17, 2011. Having spent a number of years refining his game back home, and having shown he could be an important player on a championship-winning roster, Emelin was getting the chance to suit up in the best league in the world. Thanks to his play in the coming years, the Russian would be sticking around for quite a while. The 11-12 NHL season saw Alexei Emelin make his National Hockey League debut with the Canadiens and look to make a good first impression with the Original Six franchise. The former third-round pick was relatively quiet on the scoresheet, which would become a common occurrence during his NHL career, but he was able to earn a full-time place on the Habs roster, as he scored 3 goals and 4 assists for 7 points in 67 games. Unfortunately though, these numbers weren't able to help Montreal earn a place in the playoffs, as the Canadiens missed out on the postseason for the first time in 5 years. Once his 1-year entry-level contract had expired, and having showcased himself as a reliable member of the team's defensive core, Montreal were keen to keep Emelin around for a couple of years. So, on June 30th, 2012, Montreal signed Emelin to a 2-year, $4 million contract worth an average annual value of $2 million a season. With his first multi-million-dollar contract in his back pocket, Emelin was ready to build off his rookie year in the league and become more of a factor for the Canadiens, both defensively and on the scoresheet. But first, there was a lockout! During the 12-13 lockout, Emelin decided to head back home to Russia and suit up for a familiar franchise, Akbars Kazan of the KHL. The Russian defenseman scored 9 points in 24 games with his former side before the lockout ended and Emelin returned to the Habs lineup. Emelin's brief trip back home helped him post one of the most productive seasons in his entire NHL career, as he scored 3 goals and 9 assists for 12 points in 38 games. However, Emelin's season would be derailed on April 6, 2013, as he suffered an injury to his left knee during a game against the Boston Bruins. This injury would sideline Emelin for the rest of the season, as well as the playoffs, as Montreal would return to the postseason, but they were eliminated in the first round by the Ottawa Senators. Though his season had ended in less than ideal fashion, Emelin had continued to show improvement in both his scoring numbers and his overall game during his sophomore year in the league. Thanks to his consistent numbers, Emelin would soon receive the payday of his career. The 13-14 season saw Emelin produce the best statistical season of his entire NHL career, as he scored 3 goals and 14 assists for 17 points in 59 games, tying his career high in goals and setting new career highs in both assists and points. He was a defensive defenseman, come on guys, give him a break. However, the biggest news regarding Emelin this season would be revealed on November 1st, 2013, as it was announced that Montreal had signed Emelin to a 4-year, $16.4 million contract extension worth an average annual value of $4.1 million a season. Emelin's 17-point year also helped Montreal return to the postseason, and in turn gave the Russian his first taste of the NHL playoffs, where Emelin scored 2 points in 15 games, but the Habs were eliminated in the conference finals by the New York Rangers. Thanks to a career season, Emelin had just received the biggest contract of his career less than a month into his 3rd season in the league. However, Emelin would no longer be in Montreal by this contract's conclusion. The 14-15 season saw the freshly contracted Emelin aim to keep his numbers on their upward trend. Unfortunately, the Russian defenseman would take a step back in his production for the first time in his career, as he scored 3 goals and 11 assists for 14 points in 68 games. Despite this slight drop in scoring, Montreal were able to clinch a playoff berth for the 3rd straight year, where Emelin scored 2 points in 12 games, but the Canadiens were eliminated in the 2nd round by the Tampa Bay Lightning. The 15-16 season saw Emelin once again take a similar step back in his production compared to the year prior, as he scored 0 goals and 12 assists for 12 points in 72 games. Unfortunately, this further regression in his numbers couldn't help the Habs punch their ticket to the playoffs either, as Montreal missed out on the postseason for the first time in 4 years. The 16-17 season saw more of the same from Emelin, another year where his production declined ever so slightly compared to the year before. However, unlike the year prior, he did actually score a couple of goals, as he potted 2 goals and 8 assists for 10 points in 76 games. These limited numbers were able to help Montreal return to the playoffs, where Emelin scored a single point in 2 games, but the Habs were eliminated in the 1st round by the New York Rangers. Though he was obviously never known for his scoring, I think it's fair to suggest that Emelin might not have lived up to his $4 million price tag over the past few years. Luckily for Montreal, a unique opportunity would give them the chance to part ways with the defenseman amicably. On June 21st, 2017, it was announced that Alexei Emelin had been selected from the Habs roster during the 2017 expansion draft to join the league's new franchise, the Vegas Golden Knights, after Montreal declined to protect him and left him exposed. However, Emelin's time with the new team on the block wouldn't last long, as on July 1st, 2017, it was announced that Vegas had traded Emelin to the Nashville Predators in exchange for a 2019 third-round pick. 13 years after being drafted by the team, and after 6 seasons on the roster, Emelin was leaving the only franchise he had ever known in order to play the final year of his contract in the country music capital of the world. What Emelin didn't realise, though, was that this would be the last year he would play in the NHL. The 17-18 season saw Emelin take to the ice with the Predators for the first time and look to get his stint in Nashville off to a good start. Unfortunately, the former third-round pick produced the worst single-season numbers of his entire NHL career, as he scored just a single goal and 8 assists for 9 points in 76 games. This lack of production did help Nashville make it to the playoffs though, where Emelin went scoreless in 10 games, as the Predators were eliminated in the 2nd round by the Winnipeg Jets. Once his 4-year contract he had originally signed back with Montreal had expired, and with his numbers gradually declining with each passing year, teams around the NHL showed little interest in bringing Emelin aboard for the upcoming season. Instead of waiting for a team to be in need of his services, Emelin decided that he would return to his homeland, as on September 2nd, 2018, Emelin signed a 3-year contract with Avangard Omsk of the KHL. After 7 seasons in the best league in the world, Emelin was taking his talents back to Russia in order to play out the rest of his career closer to home. The 18-19 season saw Emelin suit up for Omsk for the first time and look to get off to a strong start in his first year back home. The Russian defenceman would see his production improve noticeably compared to his final year in North America, as he scored 5 goals and 14 assists for 19 points in 48 games. These numbers helped Omsk make it to the playoffs, where Emelin scored 5 points in 19 games, but Avangard were eliminated in the Gagarin Cup finals by CSKA Moscow. The 1920 season saw Emelin take to the ice with Avangard once more, and look to build off his strong return to his native country's top league. Unfortunately, things went in the complete opposite direction, as Emelin scored just a single assist in a season limited to just 16 games for Emelin, due to what I can only assume was injuries. Despite spending most of the year off the ice, Emelin was healthy enough to suit up for Avangard during the 2020 KHL playoffs. Though the league's postseason has been suspended indefinitely at the commencement of the second round due to that virus that's going around, that wouldn't get in the way of Omsk's plans, since Emelin scored 3 points in 6 games, as Avangard were eliminated in the first round by Salavat Yuleev. With his second year in Avangard having only recently come to an end, unless there is a trade or a termination of the final year of his contract, Emelin should be sticking around the team for the upcoming 2020/21 season. To this day, Alexei Emelin is still a member of Avangard's roster. I think it's fair to assume that given he hasn't even stepped foot in North America in over 2 years, Emelin's time in the National Hockey League has likely come to an end. It's all good though, the 33-year-old defenceman and captain of Avangard's roster has 1 year left on his deal, so after next season concludes, he will likely do one of 3 things. Either he will re-sign with Omsk or sign with another KHL team and stick around in Russia, take his talents to another team in another league around the world, or hang up his skates and call it a day on his career at 34 years old. No matter which decision he makes, I'm sure he will make the correct one for both himself and his family. But regardless of what happens next, there is no doubt that Alexei Emelin had a pretty good career in the NHL. In 456 regular season games, Emelin scored 15 goals and 66 assists for 81 points, as well as 5 points in 39 playoff games. Add to that the fact that he made almost $20 million during his career, and he did a lot better than most third-round picks, that's for sure. And there you go. That's what happened to Alexei Emelin. What do you guys think about Emelin's career? Was it good, bad, or do you think he will make a return to the league before he's done playing? I think it's incredibly unlikely, but sports are a crazy thing, right guys? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Chris Gadsby, Connor B, Paul Mallia, Jordan Whitehead, and Martin Tolness, as well as a huge thank you to Max Artis for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.